bags are packed, are you ready to go? This time tomorrow we'll be on the road, riding with you in the sunnier days. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Welcome to the WifeSavers Podcast, where multi-award-winning author and global marriage educator Ramona Zabriskie provides answers to your real wife questions. Our goal is to help you appreciate your womanhood, prioritize your personal development, and craft a powerful partnership with the man in your life. Hi, I'm Hannah Allen, and I'm proud to introduce my parents, Ramona and Dale Zabriskie. And yes, this is how they talk all the time. Let's listen.
Hi, this is Dale Zabriskie, once again sitting across the tablet with Ramona Zabriskie, the lady that I've been working on being a parent with for 40 years.
Working on being a parent with.
Yeah.
How about was it that much work?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of fun. At least becoming a parent
Becoming
was
a parent is an awesome experience. It's like people ask me, they say, we talk about grandkids, and I say, if I knew they were so much fun, I would have had them first.
Right.
And
yeah,
bypass all that other stuff.
Right.
And people could relate to that.
But we had fun parenting.
We did have a lot of fun.
I mean, of course.
We still do.
We still do.
We're still parents.
And we love grandparenting, like you say.
That's right.
But when I look back on all the stages of parenting, I can honestly say I loved it all. I enjoyed the newborns. I enjoyed the toddlers. I enjoyed the little kids, the elementary kids, then the middle-aged kids, middle school kids, and then you've got teenagers. I even enjoyed the teenagers. And then we went into the young adult, and now we've got adults, and we're starting all over from scratch with the newborns and the toddlers and the little kids.
That is interesting because, people say, man, if I could just get them out of diapers, or if I could just get them into school, if I could just get them out of school, if I could just... And, I talk to younger fathers a lot and mothers, and I say, you don't really have less time. You just have a different kind of time.
Right.
It kind of moves from the physical chasing and what have you
to the emotional and the intellect. And
now
that's harder, I think.
It is. It can be. But now we're reliving all that with our own children.
Yeah, watching them go through it.
That's right.
It's fun. And trying to give them a little perspective. But my perspective in looking back is that I think I enjoyed it overall for the most part. One of the main reasons is because I didn't feel like I was butting heads with you over parenting. I think we generally came to understand each other and agree on approaches. And to this day, we'll still have some disagreements when I'm saying, just send them the money, honey. And they're like, no, they need to learn responsibility. But still, more often than not, our general approach was in sync.
Yeah, and part of that reason is we talked about it.
You think?
I think we did. It wasn't just a let it happen type thing. We kind of tried to plan. There's a lot of things that you're like, wow, where'd that come from? Never thought I'd experience that.
We talked about it, but it wasn't me lecturing you.
No.
About this is the way that it should be done. Yeah. It was a two-way thing, don't you think?
Yeah, and definitely. And I think that, you talk about the stages where you have kids that are, they show their independence at these early stages, and you try to, maneuver and corral or whatever it is. And I think that's when...
Thinking of herding cats.
Herding cats. And
yes.
My old adage, you can't herd cats, but you can move their food around. That's true.
It's kind of true with kids.
It is. It's true with kids. That's right. Cheerios and Cheetos and Dino Nuggets, whatever it takes.
The ice cream's over here.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I think these habits or for parents are developed at that earlier stage where the kid starts to display the independence and the parents try to corral. direct
Or contain.
Oh
yeah.
And that's where you can see the father and the mother sometimes getting out of sync.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that you think that there's more I don't know what the word is, conflict or sparks between mom and dad trying, different approaches earlier in their parenting?
Well, yeah, I think because when
kids start really
unless you have a
becoming
plan.
independent,
right.
like the toddler.
Yeah.
Saying no.
Yeah. And dad's like, that's
Mom's when dad kicks in his dad thing. And,
So learning, the earlier you can kind of figure that out.
I see what you're
the better.
saying. Interesting.
And your kid doesn't have to have therapy the rest of their life or whatever.
We're seeing that very thing in our own children's families again.
Yeah, they're figuring it out. Yeah.
But also that, difference in parenting styles. And
absolutely.
that's what we're talking about today, actually. And I'm really glad to get to this question because someone sent it to me. Thank you very much. But just know that you're number 593 or something of this question has been asked of me as a teacher, as a mentor.
Just lots of
times. I just have no idea. Lost count. Times. In essence, it always comes to this question. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm. I'm ready.
I've started employing a new parenting method, which is in contrast to my husband's.
Whoa, so she's flat out admitting that it's in
contrast to my husband's. And I see my child responding beautifully to it, to my style.
Of course.
Right. However, it'll take time for her meltdowns to reduce significantly, meaning the child.
Yeah, right.
All right. What would I do, or what can I do so that my husband will want to employ these positive parenting principles?
We're alliterating already here.
So she's all excited about what she's learning about how she can be a better mom, how she can affect her child's behavior. I know this kind of woman. I love her so much because she cares so much.
She's really engaged
about being a wife, about being a mother. She's obviously engaged with marriage because she's following me and she's involved. Mm-hmm. But now she's also really focused on being a good mom. And a lot of women actually find me and find WifeSavers because they're studying parenting.
Sure.
And maybe at a parenting conference, they hear about me or something. So it's all one package.
Right.
It's a family, and she cares about her family.
Well, and she's in that mode like we talked about where she has a toddler, obviously, or young child.
It doesn't have to be a toddler, but a young child.
A young child that's, showing independence and tantrum. She used the words tantrum.
Yeah. Did she?
Or meltdown.
Meltdown.
Okay.
You know what? Meltdown sounds more like a girl, and she does say that that's a girl.
Yeah.
Meltdowns to reduce. So she knows
Time
that
for
her approach. She's seeing already some positive results, but there's this one main behavior, the meltdown, she's calling it, that she knows that's going to take a little patience and effort, but her husband is still reacting very strongly, and in contrast to what she's learned from her studies now in the more positive parenting sort of principles.
She wants him to do things the way she's doing it.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, she just wants him to understand her approach and be as excited about it as she is.
Well, she wants, my husband would want to employ these positive parenting principles.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
She wants him to employ the principles.
Right.
I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt that because that's one of the things that will work against her. If he does feel like she's positioning herself as the superior.
The expert or...
the expert, the superior parent in any way. Now we're losing respect, which we know from listening to all our WifeSavers podcast and our WifeSavers education membership studies. Respect is the basis for all progress and growth and peace in a relationship. And so if and respect only happens when you have two equals. So as soon as he starts perceiving that she's raising herself up, that I am this, I know more than you do. I am the superior. We're losing respect and all hope of getting on the same page.
Yeah, even though there may be powerful positive parenting principles that she's proposing.
Well, I know she must be a very proactive, intentional, conscientious mother. And she knows that kids need both parents to take an active role in their lives. And she's seeing that what she's doing, she really believes in it. It's having impact already. And if she doesn't want him undoing what she's working so hard to do. That's the other thing. You know, I had my best friend, and you know who I'm talking about. I will not use her name. But she had a marriage that was so discouraging to her for years and years of that child raising period. She said, I felt like I was planting roses every day, and then he'd come along and blow them up.
Just knock him over.
He was a tough guy. He was a police officer. Yeah. And his way of running the kids in the house was very different from hers. So that causes a lot of hurt, not just to the kids, really, but to the marriage. So she doesn't want any of that to happen. Now, I'm also guessing that because she's so excited about this new approach to parenting and all that she's learning, that she probably brings it up all the time and at the wrong time. So you can just imagine, honey's coming home from work. They're both coming home from work, and kids coming home from the daycare or wherever. Right. And everybody's tired, worn out. It's a little stressful. And we start to see that meltdown, right? And the truth is, mom and dad are ready for a meltdown too. And that is exactly the moment that she starts saying, now, in the positive parenting principles that I propose.
That's right. That it's paramount.
It's paramount that at this moment, this is what we should be doing. I don't mean to make fun, but we do tend to be so excited about the principles, we want to use them in the moment, in the heat of the moment, that they are needed. But that's exactly the wrong moment to try to be teaching him.
Yeah, or even if they are employed and it is positive to say, now you see, honey, what I just did was to blah, blah, blah.
Now, I'm guilty of promoting that very thing. I've told wives for years to model what, do your best to show him what you want to see and then point out to him how it's working. That works for some guys. Yeah. But other guys, it goes right over their head. And they do not make the connection between what you're doing and what you think they should be doing.
No. But the timing, you also talk about the timing of bringing things up.
Well, that's what we're just talking about.
It's really important. Yeah.
Very, very much. So I just want to advocate being aware of the timing. We'll talk more about that. We're going to get to the what to do's and the what not to do's if you really want to get him on board. So let's talk about that some more. But I also want to get everybody thinking right now, all the wives that are listening, how was he raised? What kind of parenting was modeled basically
that
for
has
him?
So much, almost everything to do with it.
Right.
In a new marriage with kids or newly having kids. For the first time.
And it probably goes without saying, but I think it might be worth saying the obvious. Where's his background?
Yeah.
What is,
you gotta respect
because we
that.
all adopt, unfortunately, a lot of what our parents do without even thinking about it, right?
Or we try to avoid certain things that we experienced.
Right.
That you have to be careful about how that pendulum may be swinging the other way.
Oh, so true. Yeah. That's so true. You may be going too far the other way. That reminds me of one of my students who grew up with a mother who is a screaming mom. I mean, I felt, at least to this woman I was working with, that her mother screamed all the time. She was way
That's
up
how
here.
She communicated.
So what is she? What kind of mom is she?
Quiet and meek. And
to the point of being so permissive, right? She never said no to the kids. She never raised her voice because she was trying so hard not to be her mother that I can testify those kids were out of control.
right. Little hellions.
I don't go to a restaurant with them. Let's just leave it right there. So
Put your hands on your head, get off the table.
exactly. I'm not kidding. I had that experience. So you're right. The pendulum could swing. So it's good to think both about his background, but yours too. Right. Okay. And I'm sure that she's probably already done that. So what I hear so often from these moms is how frustrated they are that he's kind of apathetic. He's not really interested. For instance, this amazing book, honey. If you'll read this book, slide it across the table. If you will read this book, then we can be doing this together. We'll be on the same page. And then they write to me a month later, he hasn't touched the book. I've been dropping hints. I've been leaving it everywhere. I've been asking him straight out. I've been doing everything. And he just won't open that book. So tell me why that is. I mean, as a guy, why wouldn't you jump on board immediately when your wife's so excited about something, care about it the way she does?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a number of things that, coming for, if it's he's been at work and it's stressful and he's coming home, he's not thinking, I'm going to run home and read that book. I can't wait to get home and read that book.
Fair enough.
The timing of that is something,
You're making me think that if he walks in the door into a meltdown.
Yeah.
So to speak, when he himself is just worn out, like we said earlier, he's ready for a meltdown even.
I think it's really hard looking and thinking about my past when something explodes in the house, let's just say, or emotions run high, right? With kids, or even Dad, give me that toy. Something really in the scope of things is not a big deal, but at the moment and to the kids, it is a big deal. To disrupt the force of the home, basically, okay, where Dad wants it to be
he wants
certain
domestic
way.
tranquility.
Yeah, you call it whatever you
Mr.
want,
Banks.
right? As long as he can sit in the chair and watch his show or news or read or whatever
and
it
the
is.
Kids, all right.
So anything that spikes the energy in a negative way like that, it's just really easy for guys to say, "Stop that! Don't you do that right this moment!" Not to accept any of that. And I think there's something, as we've talked about, and you teach so well about women are about relationships, guys are about, getting things done and being on the line and all that other stuff, that anything that disrupts that,
his course,
is unacceptable. And he tries really hard at work and in his life, in his environments, to be in control and everything is just right and nothing's out of place. And so when something gets out of place like that, it's easy to just squelch it. It's not acceptable. You're not going to do it. Period.
And is there a little bit of the captain of the ship mentality in there?
Sure. I mean,
we're going to keep this ship.
Right. This
Some
is my
guys,
place.
not all guys are
no.
like that, but we're going to keep this ship shape here, and everybody.
Yes.
I'm the captain.
Right.
You do as I say.
Yes.
And it's also respect issue in his mind too, don't you think? And
I think it can be.
the
Yeah,
kids.
right. You're not doing it as you're supposed to. And
I know what I'm thinking when I'm the captain of the ship. I'm thinking more about obedience.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Demanding instant obedience.
Right.
And seeing, for instance, that meltdown or that tantrum as evidence of disobedience.
Yes, as an affront to...
Yes, affront. Good word.
Your situation, my situation.
Right,
Yeah,
and my
that's true.
position.
Yeah, right. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that it's... the other thing is it's a waste of time. It gets in the way. It's not critical. It's counterproductive.
It's counterintuitive.
It doesn't fit.
Because the more positive parenting approach might include the idea, for instance, of letting that child tantrum out their tantrum.
Yeah,
get all that emotion out.
Right.
Or getting very relational, getting down to their level. Is something bothering you? Kind of feel that sort of nurturance. That is very counterintuitive to the kind of guy who's in that kind of mindset that you're describing.
No, that's true. And there's a lot of positive aspects of doing it that way. There's no question. But I think if we're talking about what's the what's the word? I want to, guttural's not right, but the instinct, whatever's,
okay. Dad instinct.
Yeah. The very heart of all things that you don't, okay, honey, come on over here and tell me why,
Right. But she's thinking, we need to approach this more flexible. We need to be a little more creative. We definitely need to be relational. But she's seeing him come on in a sort of fear-based, authoritarian approach. And they're each of them feeling that the other's approach is counterproductive and counterintuitive.
Yeah, and it's easy for certain individuals, and I don't know if men are more this way. I just kind of popped in my head, and maybe it's true that the whole idea of that this is the only way to do things, right? Well, why in the world would you do it that other way? Things are supposed to be a certain way, and I don't.
Okay, I have an answer for that.
It's not just parenting, but it's like everything in life. It would be this is the way things are supposed to be.
Some people think like
that.
Yeah,
they do.
And I don't know that men do it more than women, but maybe the men in your acquaintance, I don't know. But we are going to talk about there are some gender neurobiological explanations for why moms and dads have sort of a stereotyped approach towards parenting. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm also guessing about our mom here that, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know that she's approaching it this way, but it would be a temptation. It would be for any mom to come across of, why are you doing it that way?
Yeah.
To give that kind of idea, or I can't believe you did it that way. I can't believe what you just said to Johnny. And to do it in front of Johnny, that would be,
well, that goes back to
what are you thinking? Can't you see this isn't working?
Yeah.
That kind of, because what's the message? Again, we're coming back to that disrespect thing. You are ignorant. I'm the superior parent. You're failing as a father. I cannot respect you. You're setting things up so the children can't respect you, or maybe the children don't respect you. Holy cow. If that's what he's hearing from his own wife.
Right. Yeah.
No wonder there's a big division.
Well, and you make a really, really good point. I think you kind of blew past it, and I want to make sure it's brought out, is that to the point earlier about the timing of things, to have the conversation about parenting in front of the children is universally the wrong thing, wrong way to approach it.
I can hear all the squeaky chairs of everyone, the women going, wait, because they're thinking, but wait, he's being mean. He's being harsh. Mother bear kicks in. I got to take care of it right now. I got to get in there. Everyone breathe. I have an answer for that. There's a good answer for why it's important not to do it in front of the kids unless there's abuse. And really, it comes down to asking yourself, is there some kind of abuse going on right now? And then she might be justified in intervening. But that's very rare. In most cases, it's just a different tactic in parenting that you don't agree with. So how do you handle it? I'm going to tell you. We're going to break now for just a minute so I can invite you to my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. In my work with women in over 70 countries, I found that most of us, when it comes to our husbands and sons, think like Carol in Kenya.
I was expecting him to think like me, behave like me.
Or Dana in Idaho.
Shouldn't we just be the same, and shouldn't we just agree?
Or Anne in Oregon.
I grew up in a culture where there was a lot of eye rolling and sighing about guys.
And that's too bad, because when we act or react based on false expectations, we end up feeling like Catherine or Farinaz.
I didn't feel I could relate to him because I didn't understand him.
Thought maybe he had to do something with me, and I was taking it personally.
or getting riled up like Carol.
Made me mad. It's crazy. It was frustrating,
And acting like Anne,
I used to think he should know what I wanted without me having to ask.
which just erodes our relationships and blows up our dreams. So that's why I created Understanding Your Husband and Sons, a super fun, eye-popping deep dive into his brain, body, and emotional makeup. Women have been coming from all over the world and coming away from our time together with an exhilarating sense of hope and power, because now women like Amber, Ann, Dana, and Allison understand
how to communicate my needs, how to be clear about it, how not to be run around, how not to manipulate.
The way I communicate with him isn't any more aggressive or threatening to him.
I can see why he's reacting or why he's responding that way.
That's helped to avoid a lot of the hurt feelings that I used to have.
So if, like Jeannie, you're thinking,
okay, I need to reboot how I think about marriage and men and how they're loved.
please join me at this free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. I'll teach you things you have never heard before and that you won't hear anywhere else. Science and strategies that will knock your socks off and make all the difference in your relationships.
And it just changes everything about how I see him.
There's this huge potential that I was not really tapping into because I didn't fully understand it.
I think the biggest piece is this understanding and appreciation.
We're both so much happier now.
And in how you see yourself.
My confidence as a woman has skyrocketed.
We've made it so easy. Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass and choose a day and time. I'll meet you there and even answer your questions live. Because like Carol in Kenya or Cindy in Argentina, you'll want to be able to say,
Oh, we are wired differently. And that's the beauty of life.
And it set me free. It allowed me to say, okay, I understand now. And I loved him more than ever.
wifesavers.org/masterclass.
Oh, I recommend it to everyone I meet.
The term intervening is, I want to clarify that. I'm not saying that certainly there isn't time when one parent needs to intervene, but labeling in your example of the wife,
right,
labeling the husband.
Can't you see this isn't working?
Yeah, whatever it is, at that time
is
something to try to avoid.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Unless the abuse obviously isn't.
Well, we're going to talk about though, how do you handle that situation then if you don't step in? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And what's the better way of approaching it? So, yeah. The bottom line is we want him to feel successful as a husband and as a parent, as a father. If he's feeling good about his performance in those roles, he's going to be motivated to want to keep learning and improving and so forth. So that's what we want everyone to feel good. We're worried about the kids, but we need to be worried about him too. Absolutely. And it might be important to state here right up front, something that WifeSavers students who were really studying with me through the WifeSavers education membership, which of course I want every listener to come be a real student with me, to really work that. But something they would understand, members and students would understand, is that generally speaking, men base their worth on external evidences and on performances. It isn't as intrinsic for him. So when he gets the message that he's bad at something or he's doing something wrong and it's coming from his wife, that's a real knife to the heart. So
yeah, totally.
All right. Let's assume he doesn't understand child development quite as well as she does.
Fair assumption.
And because of that, we've got a parent that's acting like the disciplinarian, and we have the other parent acting like the rescue parent, and we have a really unproductive dynamic going on. And what happens? The children are feeling insecure because deep deep in here, deep in their subconscious, they begin to, they're reasoning with, if my parents aren't strong enough to support each other, how are they going to be strong enough to keep me safe?
Yeah.
And show me the right way. It's a very confusing dynamic. And I think our letter writer knows that intuitively as a woman and as a mom. And that's why she's concerned about this. How do I get him? I don't want my kid to feel that way. I want him to perceive us as being on the same team.
Right.
Okay. So here's your first what not to do. And I think it's pretty obvious. Do not expect him to parent the exact same way you do.
And my feeling is,
even if it's by the book,
that you turn that into a positive. You've got the two approaches. You've got, hopefully you come to some complementary development.
Oh, I love that word, complementary. The mother and the father should, and they usually do naturally, complement each other's efforts. And they broaden each other's perspective. So there's something to be said for that, for the two people approach. And I'll say it, the dual gender approach, where you've got a mother and a father. That's optimal. Lots of studies, obviously, have proven that. So even in the absence of a mother or a father, we all know that children need that consistent, influential benefit of male and female nurturance. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit now. The difference between the male and female nurturance, because I think if our letter writer and then all the 593 other people have asked me this question.
592.
Yes, thank you. I'm bad at math. We as women understood the gender differences approach and why they exist biologically, I think it could help us be a little more tolerant and not threatened by his approach that is so different from ours. And with that sort of understanding, we're more likely to get him on board with maybe some new approaches that aren't quite as natural to him.
And the other thing there is I think generally, the idea that you, honey, raise the kids, I'm going to go to work or whatever.
Yeah, no. That's the old school.
Right. To really develop the relationship so you're moving away from that.
Yes.
And breaking down those constraints that might exist.
And I think today's young fathers want to bust out of those norms. I mean, look who's wearing the babies on the front at the zoo.
That's right, exactly.
Or the Bagdads are in the thick of it now. So I think there's a lot of dads who really do want to get on board.
Yeah.
But for those who might be a little laggard about it, this is a good discussion. All right. So let me just give you some differences between mothers and fathers, generally speaking.
That's right.
Can we put that on the Las Vegas lights? If, as I go through this, you say, that isn't me. Really, it's flipped.
And that's not him. Yeah.
It's the other way around. Yeah. I'm like, go for it. So be it.
Just identify it, realize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about the spectrum, right? Genders.
Yeah.
And then there's norms, but there's this big spectrum.
Yes.
And the research just backs up these things that you're sharing.
Generally speaking, common tendencies. So commonly, mothers tend to bond with children in a greater variety of modalities than fathers. And for longer spans of time per day, especially younger kids. A lot of this information I'm going to talk about here in this section comes from Michael Green and Gregory Jansen's book, Raising Boys by Design, but it's backed up by lots of other thousands, literally, of other studies and so forth. So that's kind of obvious, isn't it? That kids are right there with mom, going through the minutiae of every day. They're just part of her world. They watch how she copes with life.
And mom's going to be, generally speaking, more engaged in the things that happen on a day-to-day basis of bathing and food and all these other things.
And usually for longer periods of time, whereas fathers
come in and out.
Well, they tend to bond with children in shorter bursts of concentrated time.
And I would think
shared
often
time and instruction.
Yeah, often you use the term instruction, often on events when there's something
true,
right, or a specific play,
something more specific.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And when dads are kids are picking up stuff by osmosis from mom too a lot, just by watching how she handles her life, how she handles stresses and excitement. They learn emotional regulation that way and so forth. But dad, he's more like a proverb. How many dad sayings do you still use your dad's sayings?
That's true.
My dad always said.
That's true.
Like he takes the wisdom. Mom talks in paragraphs and dad comes along and he's the period.
That's right.
Or the exclamation mark.
Oh, we just need fewer words to get things across. So.
And I noticed when the boys and girls were growing up, but especially the boys, that you would spend, just like 5-10 minutes talking with them, and that was enough. And then I'm like, you're done? I sent the kid in for a real heart-to-heart with you into your office, and they come out 5 minutes later, and I'm like, are you sure you really got to the bottom of that?
Well, it's true today. It's true today with our oldest grandson.
Yeah.
You and he can just talk and talk and talk.
It's true.
You can go to Disney for 14 hours and talk. He and I were driving here last month. We were driving together back from having dinner with his parents.
We should say, yeah.
Right. He's 14. And so I had a car and his parents had their car. And we met at the restaurant. So I took him to drive home. And, there are these long stretches down the road where here's what's happening in the car. Ready? That's it. And I'm thinking.
And you know what?
Okay, now what do I say? Or what? Bring up a question
but it's
here.
Okay.
It is okay. That's the point.
For two guys,
that's it.
It's totally okay to just, and it would have been better if you actually, besides driving, although driving is a task in and of itself, he was probably observing how you were driving.
Yeah, probably.
But, you work together, you work side by side, and you talk a little bit, and then you go back to just focusing on the task.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, and I've watched you do that with the boys through the years and even into adulthood. So here we've got, the dad does the high five instead of the long hug. Maybe he throws a ball instead of having a long conversation,
right.
And that, what I'm trying to drive at is that approach to intimacy and connection and relationship is just as valid as mom's, much more variety, much more longer periods of time, that kind of thing. So, kids need the sentence, but they need the comma, or they need the not
period.
The comma, the period. Dad's a period.
Dad, or an exclamation point.
Or an exclamation point.
I try to bring in ampersands when I can, but.
Ampersands? What is that?
It's a question. It's the and.
Oh,
ampersand.
Really? I just learned something, but I'm always learning something from you. So here's another one. Mothers tend to provide hands-on attachment whenever possible, including longer spans of physical touching, such as hugging, taking care of nicks and scratches. Just look at a mom at a playground.
Or nicks and crannies when they're babies.
Wiping out the crannies. That's right. But they're very, mom's got a lot of oxytocin in her bloodstream and other chemicals that really have a lot to do with guiding her towards these highly sensory ways of interacting with their child, and it helps that mom and child to attach, to have all that, and the child learns to grow and be strong and to learn and all kinds of things from mothers.
Just
hands-on,
just being
touchy-feely,
there,
really being there, and it helps the child feel secure. So it has great validity. But what about dads?
Well, we slap them around. You want some hands-on discussion? I'll lay some hands on you.
No, what do dads do? Okay, so let's say at the playground the kid falls down and gets hurt.
Yeah.
And mom's like, you're kissing him. It's going to be okay. And they want him to feel better as fast as possible, as soon as possible. So they give him lots of love and sympathy and attention and empathy, that direct empathy, a lot of sensory touching and stuff. But dad says,
you get up and do it again.
Exactly.
Try it again.
Do it again. Get back up on those monkey bars. Get back into the game.
Right.
Well, what's the value in that?
Well, we're teaching.
What? What are you teaching?
Resiliency. We're teaching.
Okay.
You got to keep moving forward. Doesn't matter how many times you fall down. It matters how many times you get up. There's another dadism.
Okay. So dads really are more focused, generally speaking, on helping their kid feel stronger, not necessarily better.
And yeah.
Is that right? Is that
I think
true?
that's fair, and that you're learning from this experience, so that when it happens again, you know how to handle it, and you've solved that problem. I don't need to worry about that anymore. Now I've got something harder to work on.
And character is strengthened by
exactly.
facing those kind of challenges and
because you're going to have a heck of a lot harder challenges coming your way, bub.
Rise.
So deal with this now. This is nothing.
You're helping them to kind of rise above it.
Yes, absolutely.
To develop some functional strength. Mom's helping them develop a little more
emotional
getting
strength,
them some emotional intelligence and emotional resilience and emotional safety, and there's a place for all that. But Dad's teaching them about resilience.
Yeah, and so to the point we made kind of at the beginning, both those approaches have validity, right?
Yes, because let's say this kid grows up and has his business. He's a businessman and his whole business goes under or something. What's he going to do?
Run to mom.
Hide under the covers and not talk to his wife or children for the next 6 months? No, Dad taught him.
Yeah.
Don't let your emotions control you.
Right.
Get up, get back into the game. Absolutely. So there's just Mom taught him to self-soothe and all that, but Dad teaches him, you're in charge. There is validity, just like you said, in both. Moms tend to help children express their emotions with a higher quantity of words. And that's valid too. We want our children to make the connections between their feelings and their words.
Yeah, to be able to express oneself is very important at a young age.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And moms want, because I'm thinking of these little boys, for instance, in our family. I want them to grow up and know how to live with a woman.
Yes, or how to talk with a woman.
I want them to know how to apologize with words.
Flowers only go so far.
Yeah, I just think it's so critical as a woman. But it's hard for me as a mother and a grandmother to watch my husband or my sons not take into account that this kid is really scared. He's scared to get on that roller coaster. And I just want to put my arms around him and say, tell me why you're scared. But no, I hear Dad or Grandpa saying, come on, get on there. They're not going to get on that roller coaster. You can do it.
Everybody does that. Nobody's fallen off yet.
And it feels harsh to me, but I've learned that there is validity into it. Dads tend to downplay the emotion and play up performance. And so, when kids are little, we're saying, yay for you. That was a really good job about everything. Right. But as kids get older, dads, generally speaking, tend to say, show me the money. Show me what you've got going here. What have you done lately? Then you'll get my praise. And boys who live with that dynamic or are raised with that dynamic feel like they're constantly trying to prove themselves to their dad for the rest of life. It's not of service, but I'm just saying that is a tendency in guys, some guys, to be really lean towards the performance space.
Well, I can totally understand that. And I see in myself, even with grandchildren today, especially grandsons, and I know I did this with our sons. Not only is it, what did you say? The good job, I did it.
Right.
I would I praise or whatever. I get into the mode of saying in my mind, okay, you did that. Let's add a little bit to it. Let's see if you can now, take it one step further and do this other thing.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Just enjoy the moment.
Yes.
No. He's got that. He's over with that. There's much more. There's the next step here. And I found too that I think that's okay. It's not a negative thing,
right?
But the timing of it is important. Yeah, but the timing of it is important.
Okay.
Where you don't let the little person think that no matter what they do, it's not good enough.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and that's
so
what
you
I'm
need
saying.
to take some time and enjoy that moment and let it sink in. And
well, that's something you learned as a father, which I'm going to make the moral of the story be: moms, wives, give him time. He's going to learn a lot through experience and so forth. Let me just touch on a few other things. Dads promote risk-taking and independence.
Yeah, definitely.
Moms are worried about safety.
Yeah, get up that tree.
And Dad's like, go do it.
That's it.
you might get hurt, but you just go do it.
Right.
Right. So there's another place where sometimes moms and dads go butt heads. He may be encouraging immediate action as a path to self-worth.
What do you mean?
Well, that's basically what we were just talking about, that she's like, you always have worth just by being who you are.
Okay.
You know, the more
The
Mr. Rogers kind of approach.
approach.
And a lot of dads are like, no, action.
Yeah.
Action is
Yeah.
how you gain a sense of worth. And there's something to be said for that too. In fact, more and more studies are showing that is a more sure pathway to self-esteem. It's a little counter to what it was in decades past, where it was like everybody's, it's like, no, actually people feel better about themselves when they actually do something that shows that I'm a good person, or I'm a strong person, or I'm a courageous person. So all of these things, dads are really teaching kids in so many different ways. Bravery, courage, honor, resilience, self-discipline, not letting emotions run away with you and everything. And mom's approach is hugely important, but so is dad's.
Yeah, right.
So that's all I want to really bring out is for our letter writer and everyone else to just step back a minute. Are you so sure that his tactic is absolutely wrong? But we do want to agree. That's really important. And we want to coordinate. Maybe that's the way we should put it.
Sync up.
Sync up or coordinate. So let's talk about that. All right. We touched on it at the beginning, and it's worth mentioning in a little more detail that we do not want to criticize him in front of the others, in front of the children or others, right? If you're criticizing your husband's parenting skills in front of the kids, that will be construed as disrespect in his eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely. It doesn't work. So, all right. You're saying, what do I do then? What do I do?
Crazy lady coming out there.
Well, what you want to do, you know what? We really just want to agree. We want him to agree with us.
Well, that's what our letter writer wants.
I know.
Adopt my approach.
But what we just need to tweak what we're going to agree on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So maybe not the exact same tactics, but we can agree on the consistency.
How they're employed.
And follow through are more important than perfect parenting principles, for instance.
Possibly. Probably.
So if you agree on that, if you're not so caught up in parenting.
The methods.
Yes, the exact methods, that's right. Then in that situation, it will do more harm for her to undermine him in front of the children than whatever he's doing will do to the children.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So again, we're going to go back to the question, is my spouse behaving in an abusive fashion? And if the answer is no, and we want him to consider doing things a little differently in the future, it's better in that moment, in the heat of the moment, rather than criticizing or correcting him in front of the children. In that heat of the moment, it's better to just
let it go.
Back him up. Him up and discuss it
later.
Yeah. So you can say, honey, remember when you grounded Travis? Remember that? Well, I didn't want to undermine you in front of Travis, so I didn't say anything, but would you consider experimenting with a little different approach next time?
Yeah, that is such a great way to approach it, because if Dad comes out and says, "Travis, you're grounded,"
right,
and then Mom steps in and supersedes and removes the grounding.
That's not fair, honey.
No,
I'm saying that's what Mom's response is.
No, I know, but. Exactly. I'm just saying that where's Travis's brain at?
Yeah.
In the middle of all that.
Right.
Right. I mean, we all had our favorite parents, whether it was the mom or the dad, right? And we played them against each other.
I didn't.
Sure you did.
No,
I watched you do it.
I was a good girl.
But when things like that happen, that just cements that
right.
that
You're
behavior.
pitting, yes, yes.
And so how you just outlined that is, okay, so Travis was grounded. Okay, we'll work through that. But next time we have a different way. And so iteratively we get better.
But
and
do you
better.
hear what I said? I didn't say, but next time we're going to do it.
No.
Next time we're going to do it this way. I said, would you be willing to consider experimenting with something a bit different next time? That's the only point I wanted to make, is that I posed it as a question, which conveys respect, that you want to hear his input, his take on it, rather than lecturing him. Listen, lecturing doesn't work on kids.
Let alone husbands.
Exactly.
Yeah, but what you're saying is that you come to an agreement on how you're going to do it together. Yeah.
But not in the heat of the moment.
Not in the heat of the moment, right.
Okay, that's the whole point. And that it will do more harm. If you want to get him on board with you, you're going to have a lot more chance of that if you back him up in the heat of the moment than say something that will be construed as disrespect.
Right.
Unless it's abusive. We keep putting that out there. All right, so that's one of the things we want to agree on. You know what else we need to agree on? And you keep bringing up, we need to have a conversation. We need to talk. Absolutely, 100%. So in that conversation, in that talk between mom and dad, husband and wife, let's find principles that we agree on. Maybe we raise different, maybe everything. And we're going to do this when we're away from the heat of the moment, when we're on a date night or whatever, when we have lots of time and
not
space.
Around the kids.
Because I think most dads really would want to talk about parenting.
Oh, yeah. And you find the common ground.
Right.
And that's your foundation to build on.
I asked my daughter. Our daughter, I asked her what are some of the things that she and her husband have worked out this way that they can agree on. And they don't always employ the same tactics.
Sure.
But they agree on the same principles. So they have to trust each other that their tactics are going to
line up with
the basic principles. So here's the principles they've agreed on. These are only samples. We're not telling anybody that they need to use these principles. But they've agreed that they don't believe in physical punishment.
Okay.
So nobody's going to get spanked. That's what they decided. She said, we're not behind isolation. We're not behind scolding. We're not behind threats, which are different from consequences. We're all about connection. And we're all about setting each other up for success.
That's huge.
She whipped those out like when I asked her.
Oh, wow.
Like these were embedded in her, that they had really come to terms with them.
Well, and what's great about that is they did this kind of before they had to face the situation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, certainly having the child is what promotes the conversation, but they're, what their oldest is 2.5 or whatever.
Right.
And so they're ahead of the game, right?
But they're struggling with him. He's going through this tantrum stage right now.
Shocking. It's just unbelievable. I've never heard of such a thing.
I know. Our grandchild.
Yeah. How dare you?
Can you believe
I got to take that kid aside and give him a talking.
No. I'm saying his parents must not be presenting this. He couldn't possibly be that kind of child. But you're right. They did this. I think they really did it out of necessity because they were disagreeing so much. Right. But now they've had it. They've had a real solid talk, and they agree on those principles. But they're giving each other actually quite a wide berth, even though it kind of sometimes causes her, tumbleweeds in her belly. But she's like, I got to do it. I got to let him do it his way, because she's learned that if she imposes this is the way to do it, it has all the bad consequences that outcomes that we've been talking about throughout this. So we have an agreement on certain principles. We have an agreement that consistency and follow through are more important than perfect parenting. All right. And the last thing we're going to agree on, which is all we've been talking about this whole time, is that we're going to agree to be different. We're going to agree to be different.
Absolutely.
And what does that teach the kids?
Well, I mean, it a zillion things that I mean, it's working through the issue, respecting each other.
Yes. Think about that child
valuing,
as an adult.
Yeah.
And they've learned to, give birth for people's different opinions, that there are different kinds of people.
They've learned to give birth?
BERTH.
Give a wide birth.
Wide birth.
Well, we were talking about kids and the word birth came out. So
yeah, I know. You're right.
Okay.
You know me in words. So, but people are all very different, and mom and dad are going to be different. And, I've actually heard this situation where a woman says, the kid says to the mom, well, dad lets me do this, but you don't. And what does mom say back?
I'm the mom.
No. Well, that's what she wants to say. But
what
instead, she puts a big grin on her face and she says, wow, you're so lucky to have a dad that lets you do that. That is great. Some kids have parents that do everything the same. How boring would that be?
Take the kid right off guard. The kid's looking at her like, what? Now what do I do? Blown that excuse.
I absolutely love that. Oh, some kids have parents that do everything the same. How boring would that be? Well, I just think that those are the three main points. What we want to do is think like a team. We might not carry everything out exactly like a team, but we want to think like a team. And by the way, that book that's gathering dust that he won't pick up, next time you push it across the table to him, you can say, listen, I can explain the book to you if you want, but if you'd like to read it, then you can learn the principles and you can apply it your way.
What a concept.
Yeah, you're giving him you're respecting his need for independence and that he might have a very intellectual approach. He'd be much more likely to read the book if he feels like you're not expecting a very certain outcome.
There's an out. There's a way to engage his ideas, his approach.
Yes.
But giving the idea of being open to some new ideas.
Yeah, and you might tell him that there's a lot of science in that book.
It's a scratch and sniff?
Because you brought up...
Pictures. There are pictures and a scratch and sniff.
You brought up earlier in our conversation where he's like, why should I change? That's sort of a waste of time.
Yeah.
This has been working for generations. And she's
right.
like, well, this is a more enlightened approach. There's new science behind this. That might work for some guys, actually.
That's true.
Be more intriguing to him. So anyway, those are just some ideas for how to synchronize your parenting. I hope that they're helpful to the 593 women that have asked that question.
Wait a minute. 594. A new one just came in.
So, honey, do you love our subscribers as much as I do?
I am so in love with our subscribers.
And do you think we earned 5 stars today?
I'd say we're pushing 6.
Well, I hope they do something about it. And I hope they join my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. It works, right? I understand you.
More and more.
Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass.
Home is with you wherever that may